I mean, that's the life you come to live, is about you, right? It is. How are you going to live the life for your mother, for your father? Live what they want you. Be the doctor, the lawyer, whatever. Like, we were trained to we were trained unconsciously, right? Because up to 7 years old, you just do whatever everybody in your environment does. You act the way everybody in your environment acts. Unconsciously, your brain's picking up, like, if you want this, you do this. If you say this, then you cry, and then you get that. And so that is all happening, right? That's all happening. And then we get to be adults. We get to be adults, and we can't act like a 3-year-old. And you can, but then you might, have a divorce, or you might have some sicknesses and illnesses because of the way you've been thinking. If you think, poor me, no one loves me, no one takes care of me, who's going to take care of me, no one gives me money, I'm all alone, that means that we are letting people, like, if that person doesn't do that for you, then what's your life worth? So you have to live for you, right? And we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And I think that's where we meet the grief and loss. Because if we had a belief system that life is good, that life is abundant, that life is a gift, right? Your husband, a gift. Even though you're divorced, your parents, they live for however long they live, a gift. Your neighbor, a gift. You had a car, you got in a car accident. Hey, you had a car. That's the gift. So we know that everything we have is a gift. So it's either, and you get to determine which gift you open. So there's this present, right? This present. There's the pretty wrapping. It's all beautiful. It's all wrapped up pretty. It has good words and affirmation. And then there's the New Jersey packaging. Which one are you gonna? So New Jersey. Sorry, just kidding, but not. There's the person that said something wrong, did something wrong, upset you, hurt you. They hurt your feelings. They didn't do something right. There's that experience, and what do you do with that experience? Do you open it every day? That person's name gets mentioned. Oh, poor me, they yelled at me, they're mean to me. Or do you open the pretty present that says, oh, I'm valuable, or oh, they said nice words to us? We never focus really on what's good. We don't focus on the gift. So when we have grief and we have a loss, we learn, we have to retrain our brain, and we have to look at the gifts. Okay, you had a brother, and if you lost your brother, with some violence, we want to clean that up. We want to clean how you're seeing it, how you're hearing it, how you're feeling it. We want to clean those up. So we use the brain training protocol. We use the stop technique, and we use a lot of other techniques. We're FasterEFT tactic practitioners, so we know how to go into the unconscious part of your brain and help you pull that out. Once you pull all that out, there's no emotion, there's no charge, right? So when you're stressed, I don't know, what's the sickness? There's let me see if I can find it. There is stress is like the highest rate people have that have heart attacks, that have illnesses, because you're putting blood pressure, you're putting so much stress. Bruce Lipton, if you the biology of belief, if you listen to him, Bruce Lipton, you're generating. So when you have a loss, and that's all you focus on, and you grieve and you wear black for a year, or you sleep with your husband's t-shirt, or that's what your body's recording. That's what you're recording in your body. That's what your body is now trying to survive. So you start getting illnesses, and you start feeling weak, and then you have to get depression pills, and then you have to go and you gain weight because your comfort food is like right here.
She brought out the comfort food for Brian's bad day. I don't know about that. That's a bad excuse.
So, today I wanted to talk about imprints. You know, how
Can I talk a teeny bit before we move on?
please.
Yes. So Bruce Lipton, I would highly encourage you guys to listen to him, because he really studied cellular stem cells way back in the 70s, before we even really knew anything about them. And he had been studying them for so long. And what was interesting, really interesting, is that he was taking stem cells from a heart. And if he surrounded them with bone tissue, the heart cell would turn into bone. The cells of the heart would turn into bone cells. And so he was like, and his mentor had said, don't look at the petri dish. Don't look what's in there. Don't look at the DNA. Look at what it's surrounded by. And so they started to discover that our body has beliefs. The physical part of us has beliefs. And when we are in fear or grief or anger, all those cells just shut down and they say, don't grow, don't go, don't grow, don't grow. And that means the immune system doesn't work right. And it also means that we, like from the brain center, are being put into a pattern where we repeat this. But when the cells are shut down, then your body is susceptible to all kinds of opportunistic things like cancer and hyperthyroidism and those things that can and yeast and things like that can be taking over a body that's not growing. Because what does life need? Circulation. It's not alive if there's no circulation. So his work is really important for that. And then yeah, I brought that up because I thought if people wanted to look into that, especially around grief and loss and the stages of grief and loss, and how you know, I guess there's something inside of all of us when somebody dies or something bad happens, we lose a job or we move or any number of bad things, that we want to focus on that grief because we think that's how we process through it. We have this tendency to focus on it and make ourselves sad by thinking about it over and over, but just not knowing that we can do something else about it. So that's what we're here to learn about.
Yes, and you know, the dog is barking back here. So the belief system that you apply to every change in your life is going to determine the quality of life that you're going to have. So if you believe in grief and loss, your quality of life is not going to be abundant and loving and generous, right? It's just not. So so grief and loss is an opportunity to rewrite what that means. Okay, you know, some of us have been through a divorce, so we can focus on, you know, on all the bad things that happened in the last, you know, year during the divorce and the separation, or you can focus on, you know, what you did the first 5 years of your marriage. You had kids, you bought a business, you bought your own house. So what is it that you focus on?
Dog's barking. Right. And if it's the gift, as Rita was talking about earlier, then our cells can literally open up and start to say, it's safe to grow, it's safe to circulate, it's safe to heal, it's safe to love again too, right? Because sometimes grief and loss takes away, we think, oh, I'll never love again, or the sadness I'll never have the same thing again. And in the beginning, Rita said, everything's changing, and that's the truth. But coming to terms with that and then finding the gift and keeping that part with us is how we heal ourselves. And we can.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if you go through a loss, here's an opportunity to slow things down. Here's an opportunity to look at how you've been treating yourself, right? Because I feel like when you lose someone, that person was something to you. You know, they were giving you something, even if it was a divorce, they were giving you something or they were taking something. But so what I think about is, if you know, I lost my brother, was it last year in April? And you know, it's been really hard for my mom, and she really, you know, every day having a conversation about how good my brother was and all the good points, and all the appreciation she has for him. And I think that is where you want to go, instead of going with blaming other people. She does do this too, you know, blaming the mother, the wife, blaming the church, blaming God. You know, like, you still go to that, but she's still suffering because her perspective has not changed. Her belief system has not changed. So what I'm saying when I say turn it around is, there's a fear in her, right? Like, there's a fear in me that no one's going to remember me. No one's even going to know that I existed after 3 kids. Do you remember about your great 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 grandfather? No. And so she's going through that. So you turn that around and you want to heal that part, because those are the parts that are going to start helping you redefine grief and redefine loss. Yeah, you want to. So I can't think of, with my brothers. I feel fine with him. With my father-in-law, when he passed, I was like, wow. The belief I had is, now my kids don't have a father figure that is, you know, in my standards, that can guide and lead, you know, the men. Because I'm always like, you know, lead the men to be great, because then they can be great with their wives and they can be great with their kids. And so when that loss happened, I think I did like 5 sessions to be able to find the belief. What do I believe about that? What's missing in me? What's missing? What's that male structure that I need to help me feel better, or appreciate men at a higher level? So redefining the belief about grief and loss, finding the gifts of that which you think you lost, and really noticing that you did not lose anything. Do you want to talk anything about that one, Tammy? So we have self-regulate because life is always changing. So we're talking about. So what are the things that you?
Yeah, let me say, because if you guys were listening, you heard Rita say, I lost my brother. Those words alone come from a thought of lost. Like, we all know what lost feel, and it's also a metaphor, right? Priya, you ready? Priya is supposed to be going. So sometimes it's this sense that they're gone, they're missing, I'm never going to have them again. And that word elicits that physical sensation. It does for me, you know, so we can be aware of some of those words. So what word around grief and loss would be more uplifting, or would guide you to thinking along the lines of, you know, their spirit is still alive, their spirit's still around, they're no longer physically limited. I don't know.
Oh, I like that one. He's no longer physically limited here, and he's in the realms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's energy, right?
Yeah.
Energy is what's keeping us alive. And so whatever happens afterwards doesn't mean that that energy doesn't exist. And when we really treasure the gift of them, then it's easier to open that up in our life and share that part of them. Like my brother was super carefree and he was a total different kid than me. he was very I was the firstborn, and then we had a child die in between us, and then he was born. So he had completely different parents. And when he passed to the spiritual world, was no longer limited by physical, I was like, what is it about him? You know, he was just so vivacious and carefree and out there, willing to just go. So when I do that in my life, I feel like, oh, thanks for the gift, right? I'm still, that spirit of his adventure is still there, still around.
Yeah, that's really good. Self-regulating, like, what does that look like? You know, if life is always changing, we have to regulate our emotions, our behaviors, right? Because life's always happening. And I don't even know what it looks like to be unregulated. Snacking when you're not hungry, is that unregulated? You know, throwing a fit when you don't get your way, or you're sending your body through this disequilibrium, right?
Yes.
Every time we don't know how to regulate. The best way I know how to regulate is doing Faster EFT. It is having the thinking system that knows that I'm doing this to me, and I can let go of this sadness. I can let go of this fear. I can let go of this worry, and I can be free from that. And so that's one way that I could regulate myself. Another way you can regulate is what? What's another way, Tammy?
I think finding what works for you as far as what experience you need. So do you need to go for a walk? Do you need to be in nature? Do you need to do you need to be at a lake? Do you need to have a campfire? Like, what experience can you give yourself to help shift your own sense of loss?
I love it. Yeah. And that could be a nice hot bath, a nice hot cup of tea, you know, pulling out the fun pictures that make you feel joyous and connected and love. That is definitely great ways to self-regulate.
Music.
Changing how you think, you know, changing how you think. Above that is, what's your perspective? You have to rewrite your perspective of life. You have to, what's your image? Tammy, talk to them about the image of themselves. Like, who are they with?
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody is no longer limited by their physical, what images are you doing in your head? Like, is it the last time you saw them? I know for me, when at my brother's funeral, I didn't even know about this work, but I was like, I'm not looking at him. Like, that is not the image. I know I'm very image, like if an image is in my head, I have like physical sensations, and just seeing him like that, I would have a physical sensation, and I would have to do a lot of work to get that out of my head. In the Bible, they say, pluck the eye that offends you out, but they don't tell you how. It's not that easy for everyone, right? And it's easier if someone helps you with it. But those images are powerful sensations in our body. So your self-image can be mom and dad are fighting in the kitchen when you're 3, and you have an image of them fighting and yelling at each other. And whose self does that affect? Yours. That becomes your self-image. You become the fighter or the person that gets fought with. They're smoking outside and everyone's laughing and having fun. That image of someone smoking and laughing is your self-image. What are you going to want to do when you're feeling down? You're going to want to smoke, right? So the images in our head don't have to be us. I used to think the self-image meant that, like, well, I think I'm pretty good at this, or I'm pretty confident at this, or I can talk, or I can sing, or I can run a mile or whatever. Like I have a good confidence. I have a good, but the self-image comes from all the images that are in our head. And then what belief do we detract from them? And then we keep living it out. It doesn't have to be what we think about ourselves. And that's a huge concept. So if you guys have questions about that, I'd like to open it up. What does that mean to you? Maybe you've never thought like, oh my goodness, my parents fighting means like that's my image. Like that's not the image. Like, what does that open up for you? It's not really common thinking. It's not really taught. Can you see how it's true for you? So when I have the image of somebody moving from earth to spirit, from body to spirit, I could imagine them laying there lifeless, and myself would feel lifeless. That's the result of that image. Or I could imagine their spirit like floating around or being spriteful or being, regenerative or circulating through people's lives in good ways. And then I have the result of a different feeling. It's not lost, it's a gain.
Yeah.
No questions? That doesn't like bring up anything? You guys just don't believe it?
What brought up with me is I think one of my siblings took a picture of my brother when with the respirator and uh, and so it is an image I have that actually I didn't even think about. It doesn't have any emotional charge, but still an image. And if that's my self, image, it would benefit me to remind myself of like the times that when we were little and we were playing and we would go play baseball and we would go play softball like that would probably be more of an active self-image that would represent. I would be mirroring that instead of mirroring that
Right.
laying in bed
Seeing
all.
him smiling, hearing him laughing, seeing his eyes sparkle, like, anything that's special about them. And the brain naturally wants to go to those worst moments. And that's normal. Like when we feel like we lost something or there's grief attached to it, that's normal for the brain to say, think of that over and over and over and over and over, right? And so then we have a cycle of downward energy, downward pull of our
Yeah.
life, our life force.
So what is one thing people can do to stop ruminating on the worst part of the loss?
Yeah. I think it's so important to find out a belief, a limiting belief about it. What does it mean about you if your brother's no longer around? You're lonely, you don't have any support. So finding that out's really important because then you can do some deeper work. And I'll get to your question in just a second. But it's super important to update that image, and the way that we do that is through we tap, we release, we breathe, we do the stop technique, right? If you guys don't have that, reach out to us. Do the stop technique. Make sure that you really 5-sensorize your happy memory. 5-sensorize means you can smell it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you can feel it, you can see it. So when I think of my whale story, which is the one that I use to help myself feel in it, put myself in a calibrate myself into a different state. I smell the salt water. I smell the whale has a very fishy smell. I feel her and she's like this wet rubbery, but it's like thick. It's really dense rubber. It's not like a tire. And it's kind of like flexible. And then I like can taste the ocean, the salt water. and I can see the other whales jumping around in the ocean, and I can see her eye, like she just had her eye. And then I hear her going, making the sound of breathing, and I hear the waves, and I hear her purr, which was so amazing, the purr sound. And then I'm five sensorizing this emotion, this moment, this happiness. And then when I go back and check that picture in my head, it will have changed. It will, because I'm putting myself in a whole different state, and it cannot see that image the same way. It has to update. So that's a powerful way to change the images in your head which aren't serving you. And you can ask yourself simply, is this image serving me? Is grief serving you? Is loss serving you? And if so, make sure that it's serving you for your highest good. Just check that. So yes, we'd love to hear a question.
If it's actually a question or it's just me trying to filter, like trying to get where you are at, where you guys are saying, how do we change it and stuff? Because, okay, so